Shall I start? I'll start. Yeah. Good morning, friends. First of all, thanks for being here. It is rather early, and it was also raining. In spite of this, you have made it here. Thank you very much, and a warm welcome to this press conference. Friends, as you know, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry has made several significant strides, including renewed focus on invigorating the country's manufacturing sector under the Make in India program. Also, it's for the first time that India has received FDI of more than $50 billion in a financial year. We have with us the Honorable Minister of State, Independent Charge for Commerce and Industry, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji. She will give you an elaborate perspective on all important initiatives and outcomes relating to her ministry. I extend a warm welcome to you, Madam. I also welcome Commerce Secretary Srimati Rita Teotia, Secretary DIPP Shri Ramesh Abhishek ji. Friends, first the Honorable Minister will make her opening remarks. We will then take some questions. As usual, a gentle reminder, please keep your mobiles on a switch off or silent mode. Now over to the Honorable Minister.
Good morning. Good morning, and sorry for the small delay. We thought it's better we wait in case a few people couldn't reach us. Thanks again for coming so early for a press conference. I'm glad to take this opportunity to come before you to clearly explain what these 2 years have meant for commerce and industry. I will put it in 9 or 10 different categories. Under the 9 or 10 headings, we will place all that we want to tell you. I'm not going to go elaborating under each one of them, but highlight some of the points. And of course, since all of you all have been in constant touch with the ministry, you are fairly seized of how the things have developed, and you're welcome to ask us all the necessary questions after that. The first point, there is no sense of priority as to why one is before the other, but I'm just listing 10 different things. Make in India, the initiative. Frank had already mentioned as to what that Make in India initiative has brought in terms of the FDI. During the 20-month tenure of the present government, beginning from June 2014 to January 2016, FDI equity flow recorded a growth of 53% from $39.19 billion to $60.04 billion over preceding 20 months, which is October 2012 to May 2014. And of course, again, FDI into India touched the highest ever mark of the 51 billion during April 2015 and 16. So the Make in India initiative is not forgotten, it's not something which is all paper. It is not an initiative which, you started with the Prime Minister launching it. So what? No, so what is not the question here. We have shown consistently what it is bringing in. And because it's Make in India an initiative, following the next one, which I'll talk about, is the ease of doing business. To keep in line with the initiative launched, and in order to attract manufacturers to come into India, to make in India, we have worked with the states to bring in ease of doing business. That's my second heading. Ease of doing business, you all know, from 142 to 130 is the move upwards. The next set of ranking is yet to come, so it's not as if we've not made any difference after the launch of Make in India. We'll await the next set of ranking, which is post Make in India launch. 98-pointed reform plan was implemented last year, which you all know. and states have cooperated with us, as a result of which the ranking of states was made possible. You saw the healthy competition between the states to prove that they are moving upwards and relaxing a lot of things for ease of bringing in ease of doing business. Another 340 points reform plan was also launched. States have been briefed, states are working on them. And then to keep the states motivated, a lot of interaction between the ministry and the state governments are happening, hand-holding is happening, and we hope that even on the 340 points, state governments will show, and they are showing, a lot of keenness. Now quickly to the third, which I want to talk about, is the Startup India matter. Startup India, in simple one, we've made it possible to have a simple one-page registration form. Fund of funds was launched with a corpus of 10,000 crore for 4 years. Allocation for the year 2016-17 of 1,100 crore has already been made. 35 new incubators are being established by Government of India. Annual startup fests are being held for youngsters beyond metro cities to get an opportunity and network as well. And just to add, because many of you all were with me, I visited a co-workspace in Delhi. A lot of inputs have come from startups. We are making sure that they are encouraged. Many of you all have covered this morning that the recommendation has gone from the ministry for extending the 3-year tax holiday to 7 years to the finance ministry. We shall pursue it. And there shall now be a lot more of interaction. Secretary has been going around. He's been talking with Tier 2 city startup entrepreneurs. I shall now also start moving and visiting co-work spaces just so that we have a ground picture every now and then to reinfuse newer energy for the startups to pick up. My fourth box is industrial infrastructure. Record number of 5 cluster projects under MIIUS, which is the Modified Industrial Infrastructure Upgradation Scheme, has been completed during 14-15. Revival of the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, 4 projects are already launched. Ahmedabad-Dholera Special Investment Region in Gujarat, Shendra-Bidkin Industrial Park in Maharashtra, Integrated Industrial Township in Greater Noida, UP Integrated Industrial Township in UP, and Integrated Industrial Township in MP. The one earlier was Integrated Industrial Township in Greater Noida, UP, and the last one is Integrated Industrial Township in MP, which is that Vikram Udyogpuri. Then you have the world-class state-of-the-art exhibition cum convention center, which has been approved by the cabinet. Chennai-Bengaluru Industrial Corridor, Bengaluru-Mumbai Economic Corridor, Vizag-Chennai Industrial Corridor, which during the Global Investors Meet in Tamil Nadu in Chennai, I had announced that Vizag-Chennai Industrial Corridor will be further extended down to Thoothukudi in Tamil Nadu. Only recently, all of you all would have known that my colleague Dharmendra Pradhanji had asked that this Vizag-Chennai Industrial Corridor, which towards the south we had announced will go till Thoothukudi, he wanted that taken up north also to cover Orissa. That's a request which has come. The ministry will take cognizance of that. So many other NIMZs have also been announced, the latest one being the one for Orissa, which was announced only last week. We cleared about 3 of them for Telangana. Each one of them, I'm just giving a back of the envelope figure, each one of them is, when completed, about to give 1.5 lakh people jobs. That is the kind of average I'm talking about for each one of these NIMZs which have been cleared. The next box, which is the 5th, I think, I would like to talk about. I'm just giving briefly a picture so that I don't have too much of an extended monologue. You can always pick up on many of the things. You're familiar with many of these. The WTO, I want to be clear that in the WTO, we stood by the Bali Declaration. And the amended plus peace clause, which was brought in after this government came in, was also made a part of the ministerial declaration so that it has all the sanctity it requires. So the Bali Agreement, which was signed in 2013 before this government came in, and the peace clause which was obtained to correct a small anomaly which was there in the agreement, both have been reiterated by the ministerial declaration. And more importantly, for those who have a little bit of suspicion saying, oh my God, you did not really make a big noise and sound about standing by Doha, let me very clearly state, Doha developmental agenda has been completely reinforced by us. The ministerial declaration may have said that there is no unanimity, but we stood by Doha and insisted not only that it should continue, but also that all the leftover agenda of Doha developmental round should be fulfilled. So let there not be any doubts in anybody's minds about what happened in Nairobi. This is what happened, and those of you all who were with us knew about it. Let me also make sure that the permanent solution for public stock holding for food grains has been reaffirmed. There is no threat, I underline, there is absolutely no threat for the PDS or the MSP, the minimum support price that we give, or the food security issues. Let that be absolutely clear. Level playing field has been obtained for Indian farmers because of export subsidies being given by many developed countries. Our farmers were at a disadvantage. And after Nairobi, we have achieved the goal of making developed countries which were giving export subsidies to instantly, immediately withdraw it. Post the Nairobi meet, advanced countries will have to withdraw every subsidy that they have been providing for their export. And therefore now, India's farmers stand a better chance of competing internationally, where the farmers are now going to come without any subsidy backup, and as a result, our farmers can be enjoying a level playing field. The special safeguard mechanism is something which we picked up, asked for reaffirmation, and also insisted that there should be a timeline given for them. So WTO, I have specifically gone into some details. The next heading that I would very quickly draw your attention to is support to exporters amidst strong global headwinds. I will certainly go into those 6 points that I want to highlight here so that you know in specific those that which have been taken to keep our exporters sufficiently backed up, insured, so that they don't face the headwinds. They are already in a difficult circumstance, but this is going to help them to at least face the troubled waters. Interest equalization scheme was introduced, and I'm happy to say till 31st March 2016, every amount which was given to the Reserve Bank and which therefore went to the Nationalized Bank to underwrite the interest equalization scheme have been completely utilized. The program or the scheme is well received, and the Finance Ministry, I'm glad to tell you, has readily, instantly released the next tranche so that exporters are not going to be facing any difficulty. So that interest equalization scheme, which was introduced in sometime September, October of 2015, has been received by exporters very well. Reduction in number of documents required for export and import has been brought down from 7 and 10 respectively to 3 each now. So export required 7 earlier, import required 10 earlier. Now both have been reduced to just 3 documents. The next one is about MEIS. That is the export performance-based incentive scheme wherein scrips are given to exporters, has been expanded. 110 new items have been added on to this list. The coverage also has been expanded. And therefore, for exporters, it's very clear that MEIS is no longer confined to only a limited list which was existing before. 110 new items have been added. As part of ease of doing business and reduction of transaction cost of the exporters, government has decided to do away with, and this is very important, and I'm glad to say we have had several calls from a lot of exporters to tell us this has made a big difference. And what is that? Government has decided to do away with landing certificates required under the merchandise export from India scheme. The MEIS that I was talking to you about which has been expanded to 110 new items, has one now ease of doing business angle which has come in, wherein people who were asked for landing certificates no longer need to give it. The TFA, we have ratified the trade facilitation agreement, and based on that, a lot of seaport related activities are happening. Efficiency at the ports are improving. More than 20,000 entrepreneurs have been trained by the DGFT. The DGFT is here. 20,000 entrepreneurs have been trained by the DGFT's regional offices under the Niryat Bandhu scheme, training and outreach programs for exporters. So that's benefited about 20,000 of them. The next heading I would go to is services. The Global Exhibition on Services for the first time was organized in 2014 and successfully reorganized this year too. We've had very good participation. More than 60 countries had come. Many of the B2B agreements were signed during that. Now on the trade relations, a topic on which many of you all will really be interested, I want to point out specific developments in them. Expansion of India-Chile PTA has been approved by the Cabinet in April 2016. The India-EU BTIA negotiations, and I'm sure many of you all have seen my counterpart's email-based interview published in a paper today. She's very clearly said, because EU FTA is something all of you all are keen to know about, she said that she's written to me, and that there are no preconditions, and that, however, EU would want to have some of the misunderstandings sorted out, or some of the issues to be sorted out much before the talks can resume. It's the sum and substance of what she's written to me. She's recalled in that publication through an email reply. Those are the kind of things on which the ministry will definitely move forward. We want to work together with the EU. We want to have that agreement signed. We shall move forward and talk. Of course, dates have not still been given. But anyway, we'll move forward on that. The RCEP negotiations are actively moving forward. Negotiations are happening. Our team has been going. You have some of the team members being here. The chief negotiator is here. Australia, New Zealand, SEPA, India is negotiating Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Partnership Agreement. That's also actively moving in. Of course, in all this, I just want to put the context in place. EU probably is going through a time where they're waiting for the outcome of the Brexit. Australia is probably going through a time when elections are happening in Australia. So I would want all of you all to keep these two factors in mind when we're talking about EU FTA and Australia FTA too. India is negotiating 2 FTAs with Israel. Then with the 6 countries comprising of the Gulf Cooperation Council also, we are moving forward for FTAs. We are reviewing the initiated ASEAN, India and Sri Lanka FTA. And there are newer initiatives which we need to take on board. Eurasian Economic Union, which includes Russia, joint study groups have been set up and first draft document is ready. Then again, a joint study group has been set up to explore the possibility of entering into an FTA with Peru. With Chile, we've had an agreement signed, the PTA, but with Peru, a joint study group's information is been set up to explore the possibility. So that's all also there. India-Iran PTA, a framework is being drafted. So those are the reports I want to give to you on the trade relations. The last 2 which I would want to draw your attention to before I finish off is the Twitter MOCI Seva, MOCI Seva, which has been used extensively for people who are seeking clarification, people who want information about commerce, industry in all its aspects, has been extensively used. In fact, some of the media people have covered as to what is the kind of response we are getting on that. I'm glad within 1 month, commensurate with the kind of usage which is happening, I like to report that 98% of the cases have been responded to. So, not just receiving, but responding within the given time is something I'm very glad that the ministry is doing very well on it. We'd certainly want people to get serviced at the earliest, bring in clarity for them so that business improves, and we've used technology in this purpose. As of just a 2-day back kind of figures, if you're interested, 750 queries have been raised, 735 have been cleared off, 15 are under process, which is about a 98% disposal rate. The last but not the least, as you would always hear people say, the new IPR policy. The policy lays down a lot of things. I just highlight a few. Outreach and promotion to create public awareness. Generation of IPRs to stimulate the generation of IPRs. The ministry shall be working closely with innovators and trademark providers. Legal and legislative framework has also been highlighted. We shall modernize and strengthen service-oriented IPR administration so that administration and management of the policy is effective. We shall get value for the IPRs through commercialization. Enforcement and adjudication will be strengthened. The mechanisms will be mechanisms to combat any infringement of IPR will be taken up. And then, in order to develop human capital, we shall strengthen and expand human resources, institutions, capacities for teaching, training, research, and skill building in IPRs. So I suppose these 10 headings under which I've just broadly mentioned about what the 2 departments in the Commerce and Industry Ministry has been doing, but broadly capture about the intensity of the work in the last 2 years in these 2 departments. And it's more India, it's more within India, it's also markets. Of course, I have not spoken about plantation, I have not spoken about the activities which are happening in the boards, how we are sustaining many of those tea estates which are in trouble. You probably came to know that after intense toing and froing and negotiating with the state government's cooperation, we have taken over some of the chai bagan which were sick in North Bengal. The coffee board, tea board, rubber board are all being looked into in such a way that we'll carefully revamp them without upsetting the existing framework, but to make them more efficient. And then, of course, with the elections coming up, which has just got completed, we couldn't announce the rubber policy. We shall come up with the rubber policy sooner. And there are such things about the boards which I can speak about, but largely, I think we have reported back to you about what we have done in the 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Madam. Kindly raise your placards when you want to ask a question. Let's start with Sita. Yeah.
Ms. Sitharaman, this on the WTO is, on this whole issue of the negotiations on the agriculture, the food security thing. Is there any kind of coalition building that you are actively engaged in with other developing countries to get the developing country viewpoint on public stockholding and all that? And on FTAs, there are concerns being raised about loss of revenue. Is there a serious, how much is the estimated loss of revenue, and is that something which is so serious that we should be holding back on FTAs? Is there any such thinking on those lines?
On the food security, I think even before Nairobi, alliances were formed, discussions were held, and the point of obtaining the peace clause, all that happened. And since in Nairobi, clarity emerged that a permanent solution will be brought up, we had demanded and obtained, I'm glad to say, that there should be a timeline for it. So I think on food security, we shall continue to have the alliance which we've had before Nairobi and strengthen that, if anything. The peace clause is with us, and we shall wait for the public stockholding to be given a permanent solution. The other question that you asked me is about the FTAs. I want to make it clear that FTAs are reviewed, and the review is a continuing process. We review every FTA. It is not as if this or that. And we understand what are the implications interacting with industry, because industry tells us as to what they are facing as a result of each FTA. That's one aspect of it. The other is revenue loss related issue. That is something which the ministry will talk with the finance also to understand if eventually whether in a plurilateral agreement or in a bilateral agreement, if duties have to come down, and if duties have to come down to zero situation, it is certainly going to have a bearing on revenue. So we need the finance also to tell us as to what is this implication going to mean in terms of revenue loss. And that's not as if we are doing it with an intention of finishing off an FTA without concluding it. That's not the intention. The intention is to understand overall and in a comprehensive manner as to what actually it means in terms of revenue loss. Because if you were to bring down duty from some level to, say, 0 or even to 5, what does it mean in terms of loss of revenue?
You have some kind of a threshold of
No, we've asked them to work it out to understand different levels. So they'll come back to us.
Yeah, Anuj.
मैडम मेरे दो सवाल हैं। पहला जो हाईएस्ट हमारा ट्रेड फिगर जो था उसको हम फिर कितने वर्षों में प्राप्त कर पाएंगे, और पिछले साल डॉलर टर्म में तो घटा, बट क्या केजी टर्म में क्या पोजीशन थी वो बता पाएंगे। रेल मंत्री जी ने कोलकाता से मुंबई के लिए एक नई फ्रेट कॉरिडोर की बात की है, क्या उसके साथ में आप इंडस्ट्रियल कॉरिडोर की पे भी विचार कर रहे हैं?
कैन आई आस्क, क्योंकि आप हिंदी में टेक्निकली मांग रहे हैं, मैं तो इतना हिंदी में ताकतवर नहीं हूँ, फिर भी एक्सपोर्ट आप सिर्फ टारगेट फुलफिल करने की दृष्टि से बात कर रहे हैं। आज माहौल दुनिया भर की है कि सबकी एक्सपोर्ट घट रही है वैल्यू टर्म्स में। मैं ये ज़रूर बोल सकती हूँ कि भारत में क्वांटिटी ऑफ एक्सपोर्ट कम नहीं हुआ है, मगर करेंसी फ्लक्चुएशन की वजह से हमारे वैल्यू रियलाइजेशन में कटौती हुई, इट्स कम डाउन। हाउएवर थोड़ा डिटेल्स में जानकारी देने के लिए मैं DGFT को बोलूं, और कॉरिडोर के विषय में आई लाइक सेक्रेटरी इंडस्ट्रीज टू रिस्पॉन्ड।
जहाँ तक एक्सपोर्ट्स के फिगर्स है वो डॉलर टर्म्स में वैल्यूज़ में कम हुए हैं 2015-16 में, जो कि जो ग्लोबल ट्रेंड है उससे मिलता जुलता ट्रेंड है। लगभग 15% के आसपास जो गिरावट आई है, लेकिन क्वांटिटी टर्म्स में हम पूरी एग्रीगेशन नहीं कर सकते। जो एग्रीगेशन वहाँ लोअर लेवल पे होती है इंडिविजुअल कमोडिटी वाइज, जैसे विभिन्न जो प्रोडक्ट्स हैं उनका जोड़ना संभव नहीं है, क्योंकि उनकी कमोडिटी यूनिट्स फ़र्क हैं, और वैसे भी एप्पल्स एंड ऑरेंजेस कैन नॉट बी कंबाइंड। सो वी हैव द क्वांटिटी फिगर्स ओनली एट अ वेरी डिसएग्रीगेटेड लेवल, एंड देयर इज increase in most items, and in some areas there may be a decline also, but the position in quantity terms is much better than the overall position in value terms. और इसमें एक और महत्वपूर्ण बात ये है कि जहाँ तक रुपयों में फिगर है, क्योंकि हमारे जो एक्सपोर्टर्स हैं उनको मेनली रुपी इनकम से मतलब है, अल्टीमेटली हाउ मेनी रुपीज़ डू दे गेट इन रुपी टर्म्स। इफ़ यू डोंट काउंट द पेट्रोलियम सेक्टर में दुनिया भर में बहुत गिरावट आई है वैल्यूज़ में। रुपी टर्म्स में गिरावट सिर्फ 2.06% है 2015-16 में। तो उस दृष्टिकोण से देखा जाए तो स्थिति बेहतर है बजाय कि डॉलर टर्म्स में। बट इफ़ यू लीव आउट पेट्रोलियम जी,
है केजी टर्म्स में, इसलिए मैंने पूछा था। 16% राइज है केजी टर्म्स में, ये सेट समवेयर।
वो कुछ स्पेसिफिक आइटम्स में होगा, और क्वांटिटी डिक्लाइन बहुत मार्जिनल है कुछ एरियाज़ में, लेकिन सामान्यतः क्वांटिटीज़ हैव टेंडेड टू इंक्रीज और रिमेन स्टेबल। इसके विस्तृत जानकारी हम आपको दे सकते हैं, कमोडिटी वाइज आपको विस्तृत जानकारी दे सकते हैं, और वैसे भी DGCIS के वेबसाइट पर भी अवेलेबल है, और कुछ हमारे डिपार्टमेंट के वेबसाइट पर भी फिगर्स अवेलेबल होंगे।
इसमें जस्ट वन मोर, हम इसीलिए एक डैशबोर्ड भी लॉन्च किए हैं, आप सबके सामने ही हुआ। इनिशियली उसमें कुछ कठिनाई थे, बट दैट हैज़ बीन सॉर्टेड आउट। सो आइटम वाइज क्वांटिटी कितना, आइटम वाइज वैल्यू रियलाइजेशन कितना उसमें से आ जाएगा कि कौन सी कंट्री से ये लाभ आ रही है, कौन सी कंट्री को एक्सपोर्ट हो रही है, ये सब विस्तार से। मगर DGFT के पॉइंट गेट्स रीइंफोर्स्ड आपके ऑब्जर्वेशन से। आइटम वाइज इसको जोड़ना मुश्किल है। कई आइटम्स केजी के हिसाब से जाता है और टन्स के हिसाब से जाता है, कई आइटम्स डजन्स के, कार्टन्स के। सो इसमें आइटम वाइज देखने में आपको पिक्चर आ जाएगा, मगर कुल मिलाकर पिक्चर देना डॉलर और रुपी रियलाइजेशन में या तो बाय कंट्री देना, यही पॉसिबल होगा।
इंडस्ट्रियल कॉरिडोर्स के बारे में बहुत संक्षेप में मैं स्थिति आपके सामने रखना चाहता हूँ। दिल्ली मुंबई इंडस्ट्रियल कॉरिडोर के अलावा 4 और कॉरिडोर पर जहाँ हमारा काम चल रहा है, अमृतसर कोलकाता, चेन्नई बेंगलुरु, वाइजाग चेन्नई और बेंगलुरु मुंबई। इसके अलावा एक सरकार नेशनल इंडस्ट्रियल कॉरिडोर अथॉरिटी, डेवलपमेंट अथॉरिटी निगडा बनाने जा रही है, जिसके लिए अब हम जल्दी ही कैबिनेट में जाने वाले हैं। और जो भी नए कॉरिडोर का प्रस्ताव आएगा तो वो अलग अलग इसी अथॉरिटी के अंडर में वर्टिकल्स बनेंगे। अभी जो माननीय रेल मंत्री ने अनाउंसमेंट्स किए हैं नए डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट लाइंस के लिए, तो उस पर अभी स्पेसिफिक कॉरिडोर बनाने की बात नहीं हुई है, इंडस्ट्रियल कॉरिडोर। लेकिन ये जो हमारे एक पे काम चल रहा है, और दिल्ली मुंबई जहाँ जैसे माननीय मंत्री जी ने बताया कि 4 नोड्स में ऑलरेडी काफ़ी काम चल रहा है, लगभग 8,000 करोड़ रुपए के प्रोजेक्ट अप्रूव हो गए हैं और काम चल रहा है, और ये 4 और कॉरिडोर पे हम काम कर रहे हैं।
Yes, madam. Let's go. We'll come back to you. Yeah.
होगी, उसके अगल बगल पूरा मिनरल बेल्ट है, उड़ीसा, छत्तीसगढ़। तो मुझे लगता है शायद यदि उस पर विचार करेंगे तो बेहतर।
मिनरल्स और मेटल्स के ऊपर अलॉन्ग विद हेवी इंडस्ट्रीज एंड माइंस बहुत सारे हमारे चर्चा होते रहती है। सो वी आर नॉट वर्किंग इन आइसोलेशन। इनफैक्ट कॉमर्स और इंडस्ट्रीज मिनिस्ट्री, जिसमें ज़्यादातर पॉलिसी रिलेटेड एक्टिविटीज़ होता है, हम एक तरफा और अलग से हट कर के काम कर नहीं सकते हैं। हर विषय में इंटर मिनिस्ट्रियल एक्टिविटी एंड कंसल्टेशन के बाद ही कुछ भी तय होता है। जैसे आप सही पॉइंट कर रहे हैं कि यस, वी विल हैव टू वर्क क्लोजली विद देम in this particular corridor reference that you've given.
Yeah. Right.
Ma'am, burgeoning trade deficit with China looks unsustainable in the long run. Of course, time and again, India has underscored the need for greater permeation in Chinese markets. Is there a clear roadmap ahead to contain this deficit?
Yes, you're absolutely right. Bulging deficit is not good news. With China, we've had several rounds of talks and we are continuing so that our bulk drug industry has greater access to their market. We can have our IT enabled services, which are often complaining that registration and getting to work there in China consumes a lot of time and some of the requirements are very difficult to fulfill. These are kind of issues on which we are negotiating with the Chinese government. A third, about exports which go from here to China, there are several conditions which we are keen to fulfill so that we have, better access. Phytosanitary matters are issues which are often quoted. We've opened up and in fact invited teams from China to come and say, please check our conditions, be convinced that what we are exporting meets with international standards. So with the Chinese, specifically on our industries getting greater access to the Chinese market, there is a lot of effort at different levels. Simultaneously, in order to stop some of the Chinese goods from coming into country, where particular industries have cried that dumping is happening, which is causing injury to the industries, we are working very closely with the industries to collect data so that consistently we can take measures which are compliant with the WTO in order to bring in safeguard duties or anti-dumping duties. So on the one hand, we are trying to make sure that imports Where it is unsustainable, where it is injurious, we will like to stop. And on greater access, there's work going on.
Yeah, Rajesh.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm Rajesh from the Wall Street Journal. I wanted to ask you two questions. Can we get to hear government's view on Apple's proposal for single brand retailing along with request for 30% local sourcing waiver, and also its proposal for importing and also locally manufacturing pre-owned certified phones? B, ever since the government came into being, we have seen the FDI rules being relaxed, more sectoral caps and everything being opened up. Do we expect some reconsideration on multi-brand retailing? The government hasn't changed the policy, but given the party's stand, no company will like to come. Thank you.
On the Apple specific question that you raised, I like to state here that the Commerce and Industry Ministry, in particular reference to high-end technology related retailing, classic example is of Apple, single brand being consistent with the existing policy, no change in the existing policy, I underline, being consistent with the single brand retail policy, for specifically the high-end technology products, we took a line that we wouldn't mind waiving the 30% local sourcing requirement. I hope you have not lost out on the few ifs and buts that I've put in before. Single brand retail, high-end technology, and therefore for high-end product, which are already in the market in India. We are already buying Apple. We have not restricted them from coming into this country and selling. But if they were to do a single brand, we, from Commerce and Industry, strongly suggested that the local sourcing requirement can be waived. But I think now it is for finance, which has already taken a different position, but we will certainly talk with them on that and see what best can be done. That's on the Apple and local sourcing. What was the second? You were asking if there is a change in the multi-brand retail policy.
Import pre-owned certified iPhones and also do its local manufacturing, pushing into
No, I think we wouldn't be in favor of whatever you may call them, used but refashioned, remodeled, updated, decked up, call it what you want. Used goods, we were not in favor of bringing them here, however done up and certified they may be. That's a second. And on multi-brand retail, no, there is nothing at the moment for me to report to you than what exists.
Madam, in the plantation sector, the rubber farmers are getting low prices. There was a demand for price
stability.
Rubber.
Yes.
Rubber farmers are getting low prices. So there was a demand for price stabilization from the Kerala government itself. Is there any progress in that?
Well, there was a progress. In fact, I've had several rounds of meetings with members of parliament who specifically come from rubber growing areas. We've had quite a few discussions. In fact, after that, we've even looked at bringing an insurance policy for farmers when price crashes, when crops suffer. Insurance policy is being pilot tested. So there are, and as I said in my opening statement, we shall come up with a rubber policy, which we could have done earlier, but because of elections, we wanted to hold on. We shall soon release the policy.
I told you I'll give you a chance, please.
Madam, there is, I want to seek a clarification. In the ease of doing business, Gujarat is placed number 1, ranked number 1 with 71.14%. Whereas Andhra Pradesh is ranked 2 with 78.12%.
Yes.
So whose rank is 1 and whose rank is 2?
Page number 9.
Some typing error. Not typing. That must be a typographical error. This is something which was released to the public even long back. So there should be a typing error which we'll correct. But the ranking will not change because that ranking was announced long time back.
So Gujarat is number 1.
Yes, and Andhra Pradesh is number 2. The figures may be error in typing.
Yeah, please.
Putting the export question forward, is there any target which has been set for this year?
No setting targets. I think we should clearly see that the exporters don't suffer because of the global situation. We shall help them as much as they require and improve their performance. We are not setting targets.
Yeah.
Ma'am, on the issue of disputes with US, there's one issue of the visa fee hike. Now that the consultations are done, what will be India's way forward? And secondly, ma'am, on the solar dispute where India is to appeal and was also going to go ahead with 16 cases, is there a scope for out-of-court sort of settlement where India and US can come to an agreement?
In both the issues relating to the visa dispute as well as the solar matter, we are engaging with the United States. Our first effort will be to try and resolve the issues so that the perspective from where we are coming is understood. In the event that we are not able to reach an agreement or to an understanding, then I believe that we would take the matter further, and that's very clear, and we have so stated.
Yes, Sapna, you want.
Ma'am, you just mentioned about the Apple case, wherein there was a very strong push from your ministry to waive the 30% norm. You have also indicated that probably you would like to take the matter again with, Finance Ministry. So, would it be more of a wider discussion, or specific to the high-end technology, the cutting-edge technology matter, and any other things that we are thinking about in terms of further relaxation of the FDI policy, any particular sectors that we are looking at, something that we can expect over the next couple of months?
See, I want to first of all explain that the position that we are taking on the local sourcing requirement as regards Apple relates to the high-end technology related products, and that is in retail. We are not talking about the policy being altered or anything when it is a manufacturing in India business. Let that clarity be first of all clearly laid out, because after all we are buying these products already in the market, and we are buying even knowing very well that there is no local sourced material in it already. It is not that we are talking about manufacturing in India. Let there be a distinction made very clearly. That's one. The second is about, are we opening up more areas? Well, at this point, I have nothing more to add.
Yeah. Yes, the gentleman there. Yeah.
Good morning, ma'am. I am Manoj Kumar from Reuters News Agency. I have two questions. One, there are reports that Indian exporters, particularly this pharmaceutical sector, is facing problem in getting payments from Venezuela. So, and Indian government was in talks with Venezuela to have a rupee deal so that it could be repaid, adjusted against the oil payments. So what is the status on that? Have we heard anything from Venezuela? And secondly, about the reports that Indian government and Indonesian government is talking to have a non-basmati rice exports deal. So what is the status on that? Thank you, sir.
On the payments to in the pharma sector, actually not just with Venezuela, there are other countries, Sudan, etc., Nigeria, where our pharma exporters are facing difficulties in payments because of the internal issues of those countries. In all those countries, we are engaging with the government. In the case of Venezuela, where there has been a fair period of engagement, we are also in conversation with the Reserve Bank of India to see if an appropriate mechanism could be devised, along with the RBI's assistance and the Finance Ministry's assistance, to see that the payments are in some sense protected. But that's a work in progress.
Basmati Indonesia. Non-basmati Indonesia.
With basmati, non-basmati in Indonesia, we have on the verge of concluding an agreement. In fact, they are very keen to procure the non-basmati rice from India because that is what they do consume. Our prices are competitive, and the agreement between our STC and the counterpart in Indonesia is now being concluded. So we will have a firm agreement for movement of non-basmati rice to Indonesia.
I can take one more question if you have. Otherwise, yeah.
One thing I want to add.
Yeah.
which I didn't mention, which none of you all have raised, but I think it's important. I was in Myanmar recently. Among many other things that we spoke there, I think one thing I need to draw your attention, and it is very important. We are talking with Myanmar, and they're going very well, the talks are going very well, on government-to-government import of pulses. We understand, and that's important for us to know, that globally, of course, from various countries we import pulses. This is not, this is not just after 2014. Pulses have been imported in this country because we produce far lesser than what we consume. Pulses have been imported in this country over decades. But because of last year's unfortunate experience of pulse not reaching the market, we going from the government to procure the pulses in the last minute, and pulse being globally also not a commodity which is grown in large quantities, there was a bit of a difficulty. Anticipating the requirement of pulses for this year, we have started negotiations with the Myanmar so that we can get the pulses through the government agencies, so that India will have enough stock of pulses, and there shall not be speculation resulting in consumers suffering. We shall ensure that enough pulse come into the country. So negotiations have happened, and I'm glad to say that there is a positive engagement with Myanmar on that. We are distributing two documents, one for commerce and one for industry, which I'm sure you got it. Other than this, we shall also be putting an e-book out. Late this evening, it'll be, the updated version will be available. For commerce, I think I'm showing a printed version, but that wasn't the idea. The e-book is already out. You can have a look at it. That'll, through links, as the e-book works, for each topic, through further links and connection, you can go deep into every topic that you want to know about. Industries also will be up, so the e-books can help you to look at and keep up to date on what we want to report to you.
Yeah, you want to ask?
There was a proposal that was to be sent to the Finance Ministry. What exactly are we proposing, ma'am? What is the status of that? By when do we see securitization of IP happening?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
One of the things in the IP policy is the securitization of IP so that people can realize the value of IP. So how are we going to make that actually possible? It was mentioned to us earlier that you're going to talk to RBI and Finance Ministry to recognize it as an instrument or whatever. If you can elaborate on that, sir.
No, this policy has been just approved. We will be discussing with RBI and other agencies and other stakeholders about how to take this forward, and then we will come out with more details.
Yeah. Yeah. On behalf of PIP, Madam, we thank you for being here, patiently answering questions and giving a comprehensive brief. And thanks for all the secretaries. And thank you, friends. Please join us on the 4th floor for tea. Thank you.